All right, negotiating price. So, negotiation in itself can be an entire course, but for the sake of this course, I'm going to give you a quick crash course on how to negotiate your price in a very simple way. And it doesn't necessarily matter what product or service you have, it generally works the same across the board. The thing you want to know is that people love to get a good deal. So, it's your job to make them feel like they are getting a good deal, even though they are not. And so, for example, if you want to sell your product or service for $15,000, if you start at $15,000, they're going to keep pushing you down. So even if you're honest and you say, look, I'm just trying to get $15,000 and I believe that's what I'm worth. And they're going to always be like, well, you could do better. You could do better. You could do better. And then you end up selling for $10,000. Even though everybody thinks they play fair, majority of people always want to get some kind of deal or feel like they are getting a discount. So what you want to do is you want to create the illusion like they are. So you start with 20,000 and you make it harder to go lower and lower. And so when you start with 20,000, you kind of play dumb and you say like, oh, well, to get a lower price, I have to ask for approval and blah, 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 blah. And then you get to 18,000, 17,000, 16,000. Eventually they get you down to 15,000. And so in their heads, they're thinking, wow, I got a good deal. I got him from 20K to 15K. But in your head, you're like, wow, we really got this guy because, we started at 20 anticipating that he would push us down to 15 because that's human nature. So if you lower the price, basically another thing you can do is you can try to get something in return, like a yearly contract, depending on your product or service. I'm going to go ahead and give you an example of what I mean by this. Okay, so check it out. So we're negotiating price. I'm on the left side. I'm the salesperson, and John's on the right side. And, he's trying to get a deal. I'm trying to get a fair price. So let's see how this goes down. I'm going to go in and I'm going to start with $30,000. I'm going to say, hey, John, for the product that, for the service that I'm offering, I really believe I'm worth $30,000, and this is what I charge my clients. This is the typical price. So John's going to say, okay, I understand what you're saying, but, I only have $10,000 to spend. This is my marketing budget. And you're going to be like, well, John, look, I'm at $30,000 and it seems like, $10,000 is a little bit off. I don't know if I can do that for you. And John's going to be like, well, he's going to say whatever he says to push the price down. So I'm going to come back with, okay, let me check with my business partners, see if they can lower the price. I go back to my business partner and be like, okay, I talked to my business partner and they said, we could do it at 25,000. And John's like, well, I really appreciate you doing that for me, but we really need something cheaper. So he might go up and go 15,000. So basically it's this war of going down, up. So I go 20,000, he goes 17, I go 17,000, he goes 17,500, and then we meet in the middle. So in this situation, imagine if you wanted to get $15,000 and that was your goal for the deal. So if you started at $30,000 and then it ended up at $17,000, you're getting paid $2,500 more for your services. And so from John's perspective, he lowballed you in the beginning by giving me offering me $10,000, and then he just kept going up to meet me in the middle. So in his head, he's like, wow, man, this guy was charging me $30,000 in the beginning, and I negotiated him to get $17,500, almost half. But in your head, you're like, you anticipated that he would do that, and then you actually got the price that you wanted, right? So this is the price that meets in the middle. Both sides are happy because John thinks he got a deal, and you got a fair deal. So another thing you can do instead of trading money, right? Instead of going down, you could actually just offer more services. Instead of lowering the price, you could say, hey, how about we keep the $30,000 price and I'll give you these services in exchange, and then he might actually buy those extra services. You could also offer long-term contracts if you go lower. So you could say something like, hey, John, typically we don't lower our price, but the only situation that we do is if you can do a yearly contract. I'm not sure if that's something you're interested in, but by doing a yearly contract, we could lower the price by half if you sign a 3-year deal. And so if you're selling a service that you want to get them on a retainer, by lowering the price and locking them in for a few years, you can actually lower your price and have your short-term revenue lower, but have your long-term revenue be higher by locking in that longer deal. So you can get your long-term revenue higher if you just lock in the deal that way. So, essentially that's one really quick negotiation crash course where, to summarize everything, start high, they're going to start low, and then meet in the middle and make sure that whatever that middle is something you're comfortable with. And so that's just the game. People always want to get a deal, so you just start high. If you start where you at the number that you deserve, most people will try to bring you down. So just start a little higher and you're going to be just fine. And if you don't want to trade money as you're lowering, you could get a long-term contract or extra services. So that's everything we got to cover on budget and negotiating your price. And let's go ahead and move on to the next section.